Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Jennifer Otter Bickerdike, with another episode of the Inside the Music Industry podcast. This episode I'm super stoked on. I cannot believe I got to talk to Andrew Huang. Now, if you're not familiar with Andrew, he has over 200 million individual views on YouTube and almost 2 million subscribers to his channel. Now, what Andrew's become well known for is his viewership challenges, where his different followers or fans will ask him to do songs or different things with unconventional instruments. One of my favorites is when he does Nina's 99 Red Balloons, playing it with actual red balloons. It's absolutely incredible. So in this episode, we talked to Andrew about how he started out, what inspires him, and also just how to grow a following. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed talking to Andrew. Thank you so much for listening. What was your background within music, and how did you first get started? Who were your influences and heroes when you were growing up?
Okay, well, so I'll start like at the very beginning. My mom was pretty musical. She sang and she played the piano, and so she got me into piano, and was, definitely like strict about making sure I practiced because she knew that that would be valuable to me later on, and she would tell me, all my friends who decided to slack off on their piano lessons really regretted it later in life. And, as it turns out, she was totally right. And now I'm an adult and I wished I'd practiced even more than I did, and had even better chops. But piano was my foundation. It's all I really did for the first few years that I was into music, in early childhood. And then around, 10, 12, I started realizing that people were making music on computers. My friends were turning me on to rock and roll and punk. And then in school, I had teachers showing me classical music as well as jazz. And so I just felt like my musical world was really expanding quickly. And everything that I heard, I really enjoyed on some level. Some stuff I liked more than others and stuff I liked for different reasons. But I really felt like everything was really interesting. And so, the question about influences or idols or, that's always been a tough one for me to answer because every new thing that I really got into, and it was like this huge variety of stuff. So, just from there, I kind of continued exploring as much as I could, both on my own. And when I ended up going to university, I went to York University here in Toronto. And they had a cool program that, there was more than just classical music, which is, more than you can say for a lot of schools, although that's definitely changing since I was in school. But I started out in a classical composition program there, wasn't feeling it, and I switched out for just a fine arts degree. But then I was able to take all kinds of interesting courses about recording or songwriting or, Brazilian drumming, like a bunch of interesting stuff that really broadened my horizons even further. That kind of takes me to where we are today. It's just like constant exploration, both, on the formal kind of track as well as experimenting on my own and gleaning whatever I could from magazines back in the day and then the internet.
So you never really had I had serious obsessions with different artists or different artistic movements. Were you just more like a sponge, like soaking up everything, or was there not really like a couple kind of examples we're talking like 10 years ago, I went through a hardcore, wait for it, Andrew, Rod Stewart obsession period. So
okay.
I have other ones like that. So has it been for you? Has it been more just like the whole cornucopia, not necessarily one artist or one kind of music then?
Yeah, I guess I've had some longer term phases, but I don't think they're anything, crazy out of the ordinary. I'd say like the Beatles and the Beach Boys, Prince, and then, for kind of smaller, shorter term obsessions, there have been lots of things. I don't know, the Smashing Pumpkins were a big thing for me when I was a teenager, all that angst. I guess Radiohead has been definitely a longer term, like, huge respect to them. And yeah, getting into weird electronic music, I really loved the whole Warp Records scene for a long time. I mean, they're still doing great stuff, but they definitely had this like golden age. Yeah, no, it really has been a little more on that cornucopia side of things. I love that word.
So when did you first realize that YouTubing could be such a huge part of your life and career?
Ooh, I think it was. I mean, it was pretty gradual. I signed up for YouTube in, a year or two after it became a website, but I wasn't posting anything on there. And I think around 2010 was when I realized that it could be a really interesting way to grow an audience. A friend of mine got really into it. He told me he learned some things about it. Like, it's the second largest search engine in the world behind Google. He was making videos and finding a lot of success there. And I was also just kind of getting interested in the photography and, visual art world, experimenting with stuff on my own, and, got a camera just to try stuff out. I really liked, creative music videos, and I thought that would be kind of an outlet for me. And then as it turned out, YouTube itself, there were so many more creative ways to make a video and to engage with people that I just kept on exploring in it. And, it was just so interesting to me. It wasn't really planned, but it just kind of took over more and more until I think about 2016. I was like, okay, this is going to be the main thing, and let's go all in on it. And I posted 2 videos per week for about a year and a half. And that was like the foundation of what my channel is right now. And, finding my voice. What are my videos going to be like? What am I trying to accomplish? And of course, growing as large of an audience I had, that mostly started at that point.
Do you ever have a weird disconnect, like, because you're talking to a camera that you're going out to this huge audience, people are going to see you, and da 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 da. Does it always surprise you that you're actually making an impact with people, that people are actually viewing it? Because it's quite solitary in some ways what you're doing, but you've created this whole community.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool how many people you can reach and the level of impact that you can have, which is definitely not something I can fully comprehend because the numbers have just become so large. Even back in the day when my videos were reaching 5 or 10,000 people, that's still a bigger number than you can really hold in your head. And imagine what each of those individual viewers' experiences or what they end up taking away from the video and then incorporating in their own creativity. So yeah, it's really hard to quantify that in any way. I just kind of keep doing my thing. And you also, I guess, never know exactly how a video is going to do. But, at a certain point now, with everything kind of surpassing 100,000 views, it almost like doesn't make any difference other than like looking at that number, whether it is 1 million people or like it's all just like giant numbers. So it's neat. It's great, but I don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I love how you said back in the day, back when I was getting 10, 20,000, it's just like, oh, child, that's a crazy number in and of itself. Do you get recognized ever when you're out and about?
Yeah, a few times a month. Yeah, if I go to a crowded place, it'll probably happen one time. I mean, my fans definitely skew younger, but I have a very diverse audience. Actually, it's kind of cool. I went to NAMM this year, and so that's where, like, for me, that's like recognition town. But like, it was old people, young people, like every race, gender. That was super cool. I think though, like, largely my audience is definitely like a younger male bedroom producer, which is fine. But yeah, no, it's always a lovely interaction, meeting these people. Some of them are a little bit shy, but
how do you maintain such a prolific level of creative output? Like, where do you get the ideas from, and how do you keep things fresh and exciting?
I do keep a running list of ideas, a few different lists for like musical ideas and video ideas, and I kind of dip into that now and then. I try not to second guess myself too much. I think that is maybe a major thing. Sometimes when I work with other people, I can see how much they get bogged down by just questioning their creative decision making, which I very, very rarely do. And, it's a great thing for creative output. Sometimes I end up coming back to something a year later. I'm like, I didn't do as good a job on that as maybe I could have. But overall, I'm much happier kind of being prolific, exercising these creative muscles as much as possible and sharing as much of my process as I feel like I can, just because that's more interesting for me and it's where I enjoy things more. And, it's pluses and minuses, but I don't see myself anytime soon becoming the kind of artist who just like works on 5 songs for a year and then they're amazing and beautiful and perfect and whatever, and you put them out there. I think it's great that people can have that much dedication to that aspect of the craft, and I'm more just so interested in exploring as many things as possible. So I've opted to go for the like everything route.
You can just continue to edit, add, like, you know what I mean? At some point you just have to draw a line under it and move on to the next thing. And I think that's kind of what you're a good example of in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think I got used to working with deadlines. So before, the YouTube thing really took off, I was producing music on commission for basically whoever found me. And it might be, I score a commercial or I make a jingle for a podcast or whatever it might be. And you learn pretty quickly, like there are so many things that you can tweak that the other person doesn't care about and that kind of you won't care about, a week later. And I think I got used to that and figuring out what the priorities were for any given project. That I think, helped a lot. Just the pressure of the deadline and learning over and over again how little some of the things that we tweak end up mattering.
So true. I need you to be my spirit animal. I'm loving this. Do you feel pressure to deliver things that, how are you going to make you have almost 2 million followers on YouTube? Do you feel terrified? Like, oh God, they're like this contingent of my fans is not going to like this, or, is that on the top of your mind when you're creating content?
It's not really. I feel like it can't be because I've put out such a range of stuff and I'm always exploring quite a variety of ideas as well as new ideas, both to me and to my audience probably. And so I guess what I've tried to rely on and make consistent is the general sense from my videos that you'll be inspired, hopefully learn something. Hopefully it's more on the fun and positive side. And, hopefully I get to be musically creative and making something original that's fulfilling for me. But yeah, I think because, there are so many different kind of subsets of my audience who are there because they're not musicians and they want inspiration, or because they are musicians and they want education, or, they're gear nerds and they want to learn about the latest whatever. There's so many different sections to it that I kind of have to just do what I think is going to be fun for me. I think after a while you get a few instincts about what kind of things will perform better or not. But even then, that's not always easy to predict. So yeah, mostly I'm focusing on what the content means for me rather than trying to get to, the maximum potential of who happens to be following me.
I've heard that from other people. I mean, it's so cliche, but do what you know and you'll do that well. I think there is something to be said for that because you're being authentic in what you're excited about, and that will come across in your output, even if it is not necessarily the exact thing that someone may think they want. Maybe they'll end up being interested in it anyway because you're going to be infectious in what you're saying and doing.
Yeah, I think it totally translates. And I think, if a creator kind of chases just the numbers for too long, then they end up in this weird place where kind of nobody's happy.
Yeah. So true. So with how much time to do all the stuff you do for YouTube, how does that impact other creative outlets for you?
You know what? I definitely have been thinking about this lately because I know that the videos are taking up more time than I'd like them to, and I'm spending less time on music than I used to, which is, I'm still spending plenty of time on music, but I have been thinking I might take a little bit of a step back as far as, the frequency of my video output, just to really concentrate more on music in the next little while. And I think it's going to be one of those things that is, a constant rebalancing situation in my life where, there's going to be phases where I'm more excited about one or the other, or whatever project feels most important to me is going to determine kind of the breakdown of where I'm spending my time and how much I end up creating music-wise versus video-wise. But they're both very interesting and different creative outlets. So yeah, I enjoy them both. Music is going to be the number one always, but it's been interesting, like learning how much I do enjoy the video side of things. But yeah, I think it's gonna ebb and flow.
Do you think that they feed into each other?
Yeah, actually, I think that music and video editing for sure share a lot, even, on a technical level, like looking at this timeline and these little blocks of time that you move around and arrange and try to get to flow. You're telling a story, like all these things overlap. I think that there are some ways where, as like the final product, music and video working together can be more than either of them individually, which is kind of cool. But then I guess there's also a lot of ways in which they're kind of still separate for me. There's time where I'm being creative musically, and that's one headspace. And then there's time where it's, I'm concentrating on a camera angle or a video edit, or, structuring, what I'm going to share in this video. And yeah, those parts of it do feel very separate.
How much live performance have you been doing in the mix with all this? I couldn't find that anywhere.
Yeah, no, I don't perform anymore. I used to probably, it changed a lot. I think at the most I might have done like 40 or 50 shows a year. But that would have been like only 1 or 2 years. Most of the time it was like I might go on a 2-week tour every year. And it was always fun, but it ended up being more energy and time that I would put in compared to what I felt like I got out of it. And that's both on like just a artistic fulfillment level. It's kind of on the level of having fun. I mean, like when you're on stage, that's like one of the funnest feelings ever, but also it kind of gets wrecked by like all the work going in before and after. So just for me, it felt like concentrating on video was more enjoyable and fulfilling, and ultimately just did lead to being able to reach more people, growing, I think, an audience in a more sustainable way. And now it's like more financially rewarding as well. So like all in all, the only thing I'm missing from playing live is like the 45 minutes that I would get to have fun on stage and connect with people in person. But it was a tough decision to make, to just say like, no, I'm going to turn down every live opportunity for the foreseeable future. Because, it's so ingrained in you as a musical artist that you should be performing, you should be doing shows. It's a good way to connect with people. But I just realized that it was not, in the balance of things, it was not going to be a priority for me for a little while.
That's interesting. I mean, my husband always says to me that I need to edit and amplify. So focus on those things that you're monetarily and like emotionally getting the most out of, and kind of cut out the other things. And that's a really great example of that.
Yeah, it's definitely something that, I'm always revisiting in all aspects of what I'm doing, is like, what should I be kind of trimming out in order to make room for what's really most important?
How do you get your ideas? The ideas for the videos, but also the different things that you're doing, like the different musical things that you have in the videos. They're not necessarily the everyday. So where do you get these from? Is this from you doing lots of research? Is this from you being actively engaged in, literally you're just like walking down the streets and being like, oh, this, that, this, like, where do the ideas come from?
Yeah, I think they come from just being bored of how things are normally done a lot of the time. And I'm even when I'm just listening for music, I'm so much more interested in like what's interesting and novel and new. That is what is exciting to me. Whether it's like a production technique or a weird blend of genres or, some kind of strange harmony. Those things catch my ear. And I guess there's always a little part of me that, has the radar going for anything like that. That either would be helpful in my own work or could be an interesting angle for something that I can share in a video. But yeah, I guess it's just about, always having a little bit of that creative mindset on at all times, and anything that kind of comes in to the sponge, I see if I can encapsulate in an interesting way for people.
No, it's also because you're in tune for that, so that's going to come up again and again and again, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. And actually, now that I have this audience that knows me for being the person who's interested in weird music stuff, they'll just send me things too. So they'll be like, here's a video of a seal and it makes such a cool noise. And I'm like, yeah, that's amazing. I want to make that into a track. Or the send me weird instruments that they find. So it becomes this like self-perpetuating thing.
You have 1.8 million researchers out there for you, Andrew.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much. Are there any routines and rules that your videos have to fall in the perimeters of?
Not really. I guess like in general, I'll try to aim for something that is entertaining, but that's not even like a first priority. That's sort of just like trying to keep that in mind as the vibe, keep things moving along. I try to make them accessible, in that I wouldn't want someone who is more advanced to get bored, but I also wouldn't want someone who's a beginner to get lost. So that's not always the easiest balance to strike, but I think I do pretty well with that most of the time. I like that I can appeal to both, like, I have people in my audience who've won Grammys, and I have people who are there who are like, I just decided today that I want to learn what a keyboard is. And then I also have people who are like, I know that I'm never going to make music. I'm a graphic designer, but your videos inspire my creative process. So I'm able to like reach those different kinds of people. And that's definitely something I try to maintain. I just like the idea that the videos can serve people on multiple levels. I guess the videos always have something to do with music, but I don't really confine them to anything more specific than that. Because we might get into theory, or it might be an instrument or a technique or an original song or a cover or anything.
I mean, that sounds to me like you're so humble, because that's a huge brief that you're going from someone that's won a Grammy, which you could just, most people, myself included, would be like, oh my God, that's so intimidating, all the way down to just the absolute beginning novice. That's a huge brief that you're working to.
Yeah, it's true. And it's not even like, I also have realized, having read lots of comments that come in, that you can never please everyone. And I guess I wouldn't say that that's what I'm trying to do either, but I think what I'm trying to do is find the cross section of people, no matter where they are in their life or their creative journey, who are appreciative of kind of exploring the unexplored as far as music goes, and furthering their creative process, however, wherever they might be in it.
When you do get negative comments, how do you deal with that?
It does depend on the comment, because I am definitely open to constructive criticism, and that comes in, and sometimes it might even be kind of rude, but you can kind of get what the intended message was. Well, the intended message is probably more about the rudeness, but you can glean something useful from it. I guess, yeah, I try to, I did talk about this in a video once. I try to make every negative a positive, and I try to also, take the positives in without it being like an ego inflating thing, but like a boost of energy to keep doing what I'm doing. So as far as like turning the negatives into a positives, it's either like, okay, maybe they're saying something that reflects something about my work that could be better, and weighing that against my own judgment, and then also there's like, if it's just pure hate coming my way, that's just also more fuel for me to just do my thing, because, this person doesn't know me, and they're still responding to my work, and I kind of can use that as energy too. So that's sort of how do I deal with it. It doesn't really get me down anymore. I think the way that it might have at the beginning, when you're, the very first time you're getting some like long paragraph about all your flaws from someone, you're like, oh wow, what did I get into here? But no, it all rolls off now. At the end of the day, like, this is a person who's choosing to spend their time leaving these comments on YouTube. Like, how great is their life that that's what they've got to do. So a friend of mine told me something that actually I find really funny and sometimes helpful. But basically, if you get a negative comment, you have to accept it as though it's coming from a person who you don't know, who just crawled out of a garbage can as you were walking by, and they're covered in filth, and they just kind of like incoherently yelled that at you. Like, that's basically how you can treat a negative comment.
Not a cute, fluffy Oscar the Grouch, but like a really foul person.
Exactly.
Well, of the many videos that you've done, and I hate it when people ask me this question, but I just have to know, is there one or two videos you've done that really stand out to you that you always come back to as like, that was a memorable experience?
Yeah, there are two that come to mind off the bat. One is actually one of the earliest ones I did. It's the first piece that I did using no real instruments and no electronic instruments either, but just found sound, just sampling. And it was a commission that I got from a jeans company, and they, found my YouTube channel pretty early on. I don't even know why they believed in me, because I had very little to show for, but they just said, like, really like what you do. Would you want to come up with any kind of concept around jeans? And they gave me a very little budget, but I decided to rent 1,000 pairs of jeans and make a track out of like all the sounds I can make from the jeans. And, I could have done it with like 2 pairs, but I was already thinking like, well, for the video, this is going to be way more shareable and ridiculous if I have 1,000 pairs of these, because like, what a crazy big number, and who's ever had that many pairs of pants in one place before. So I also, didn't want to keep them after the video. So we worked out, I think, like a by weight rental of these pants, which ended up, I think, being less than $1 a pair or something like that, maybe 50 cents a pair when we broke it down at the end. But yeah, just a ridiculous experience. And the other one that comes to mind is this was a paid partnership with Native Instruments, which is awesome. A company that I've used their tools for a long time, and it was great when they reached out a couple years ago to start doing stuff together. But they brought me out to their offices in Berlin, and just to explore what that was like. I can't even remember what we were promoting now. The new line of MIDI controllers, but just for like the fun of the video, we went to this abandoned military aircraft hangar from like World War II, and we just recorded a bunch of sounds in this crazy, huge, echoey room and turned that into some music. So that was really fun, just to, be able to realize that my music and my videos took me to this place where, someone's going to bring me to a weird abandoned building in Germany to record sounds.
And wow, did you ever think your life would be that?
Not at all. When I was doing the like little commission pieces here and there, a few of those a month, I was like, all right, I've made it. Probably going to do this till I die.
Do you have those moments where you're just like, oh my God, this is my life. It's so bananas.
Oh yeah. So often, because it just keeps getting more ridiculous, with who I'm able to work with and how many people I'm able to reach, and just the fun that I get to have, every day, exploring like unreleased instruments, or hearing a tune from some artist that, like, I don't know why they care about me, but they're like, huge on the festival circuit or whatever. And they're like, hey, what do you think of this single I'm going to drop soon? And I'm like, wow, cool. Yeah, there's always something interesting and new going on. So definitely have a lot of fun with that.
So Andrew, what top tips do you have for other musicians that are trying to establish and monetize their own YouTube channel?
At the start, I think it's really about being prolific. For me, I was on YouTube for a few years before really making it my thing. And I was uploading all different kinds of stuff, but not very frequently, not very purposefully. And, it was kind of a side thing. So they also, I wasn't putting as much thought into it. But it was when I decided to really focus on YouTube and commit to a schedule, and put out as much as I could. And, kind of whether or not I felt like it was my best work, I would still make sure there was something that would go up every Monday, every Thursday. And I think that is important at the beginning. Like right now, I don't put out as many videos as I used to, but at the beginning, to build up a catalog of work so that when people find you, they have a lot more to dive into. That's important. And then also just because doing it more is going to make you better at it. And, more than anything else, doing another video is going to teach you more about making videos than reading some stuff on a forum or like buying another camera or whatever. So yeah, 100%. I think the biggest thing to do to get going on YouTube is to make as many videos as you can. And that, that's how you get better at it. That's how you find your voice, how you learn what kind of audience is attracted to you, and how to create something that will reach them. Yeah. That's the number one thing.
So it isn't necessarily about making the hashtags or putting this or that, the metadata. Do you think it is just about people will find you if you keep doing it?
Yeah, I mean, those things are a little bit important. I would say more important than the metadata would be like video concept, title, thumbnail, those things that, if someone does come across it, the first thing they're going to see, whether they're on their phone or the desktop, or if someone else shared the link somewhere, it's going to be the title of your video and the thumbnail. So what is going to, get someone past that point and actually click on your video and hopefully enjoy it? So one thing that did help me early on was either these ridiculous concepts like making music with 1,000 pairs of pants. A lot of people, if they, that comes up in their feed, they're going to be intrigued. They're going to click on that. I also did cover songs, and I tried to be creative with the covers. Like, I would incorporate weird sounds into them. Like if a song mentions something weird, so I did, I think the biggest one is 99 Red Balloons, and I used only balloon sounds to cover it. So that was a big one just for like the ridiculousness of it, but it also had the added benefit of people already being familiar with the song. And then I guess the next level of that would be if you are creating something that, creating content about a currently trending topic or song or person or event or whatever it is. That's just always something that will have a little bit more SEO. People will be putting related words into those search engines, and that's where your content has a chance of showing up for someone completely new to you.
Those are awesome tips. And as soon as we hang up, I'm finding that 99 left balloons. That's my immediate thing on my to-do list. I'm desperate to hear that. That sounds so cool.
It's a fun video.
Tell me about Learn Monthly. What is it? Why? What's the response been like? Why did you decide to do it?
So I've been thinking about doing an online class for quite a while, because I felt like it would be a better way to get this kind of knowledge out there, that I've amassed over years and years of both formal education and self-taught kind of internet searching. And, on YouTube, to grow a channel the way I have, you do have to kind of focus on ideas that are going to be really exciting and interesting to a lot of people. Going really in depth is difficult to do. And so I wanted to make something that would be like a really quality online course, be accessible to a lot of different types of people, but it would also be for the people who are really willing to commit to a deeper learning experience. So that was kicking around for a while, and then, I just never was able to set aside the time to make it happen. But when Learn Monthly approached me, It felt like a good fit. It felt like they were developing a good platform for it, and they were doing a few things that I hadn't seen other online courses do, such as putting people in small groups with other students so that they could talk to each other and give each other feedback and answer each other's questions a little bit, as well as involving me in the process a little bit. I leave comments on as much of the work as I can. I will leave little video updates now and then when I see that there's kind of a trend going on in the work that's being submitted and some general guidance I can give. And the final thing that I thought was really interesting was that they encourage everyone to join the class for a certain period of time, and all the students will go through the class in 30 days, which is, I think, something that gets overlooked in the learning process, which is like the intensiveness of it and the intention, I guess, too, of it, where you can say like, I want to learn music, I'll get some online video courses, and you kind of watch them here and there maybe, but I think you just compound the progress that you can make when you commit to like a couple hours a day and really work on something, frequently and in a condensed period of time. So it felt like a great way to do an online course, and so far the response has been amazing. I've had so many students tell me that it's like beyond their expectations. They're like finishing songs for the first time, or they're learning things that they never knew about before. So I think it's going well.
Last question. You have an insane home studio setup. How long did it take you to build it, and how much time do you actually get to hang out in there in any given week?
Oh, I'm in there almost every day. Yeah. It's an amazing space. So I guess, all of this started when I was, I don't know, maybe like 20 years ago, when I was like using a tape recorder that my parents had to try and learn about recording. And just over the years, graduated to recording on a computer and figuring out, tried like 10 different DAWs and landed on Ableton. And then, I definitely enjoy exploring gear. And so there's like a constant shuffle of stuff coming in and going out. At the beginning, it was definitely a lot more used stuff because there's a great aftermarket for all kinds of instruments. And that was a great way to just be able to try a lot of things out and figure out what works for me, and not even really take a loss on it, because you can sell the thing for around the same amount that you bought it for. And it's like, oh, I just had a banjo for a year for free or whatever. So yeah, that's kind of how it all worked. And, at this point, I have this large audience that many people want to get in front of. So I'm very fortunate that people want to send me stuff, but I try not to accept it if I don't think I'll actually enjoy it. But yeah, no, there's been some nice endorsements along the way as well. And it's just been a lifelong journey.
Well, I'm not surprised that people love you, because you're just as charismatic as I hoped you would be, and sweet and smart and intelligent. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Hey, yeah. Thank you, Jennifer, for having me on. This was fun.
Take care. Thanks so much, sweetie. Thanks for listening to this episode of the ITMI podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to subscribe, like, give us 5 stars, share with your friends, share with your enemies. We're available on all platforms, including SoundCloud and YouTube. If you have any suggestions, questions, or people you'd like to hear us interview for the podcast, then please drop us a line through our email address that's in the description. Thanks, and catch you next time.